Howdy everybody, I'm Sam Pfeifle. I am the music writer for the Portland Phoenix, and this month we are debuting a brand new series called 10 Minutes Talking About. And today we're going to be talking with Charlie Gaylord. Thanks for being here, Charlie.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Charlie, as many of you probably know, is the person who put together the Greetings from Area Code 207 compilations. He also hosts the Greetings from Area Code 207 radio show on WBLM. And so I brought you in here for the debut of this series because I want to talk about taste, right? So taste is something that I sort of struggle with when I'm writing my reviews for the Phoenix, because I try to separate out the difference between what I like and what I sort of think is objectively good, or what other people will like. And obviously what I like is not what everybody likes. And one of the reasons I wanted you in here to talk about this is because the Area Code 207 series and your show has been so well received. I've reviewed it really positively. I think, you know, it's generally considered a job well done. And I think one of the reasons it succeeds so well is that, you know, it's your vision. It's not only a lot of tracks that are good, but they're tracks that hold together, and they all sort of fit kind of your vision for what this compilation should be. And I want to talk to you about, you know, how do you decide what to put on one of these compilation discs, or how do you decide what to play on your show?
Well, thanks for the kind words, by the way. You know, no one's ever really asked me that, and I just I started it initially because I thought there was enough good stuff to make a disc. This was in the year 2000, and so I never really thought about it other than it's the stuff that I like.
Right.
You know, I think there's good music and there's not good music, and I think everybody has I think everybody thinks they have good taste, and so I don't presume to say that I have good taste, but people seem to like the stuff that I pick out. I'm just trying to make a disc that somebody who's unfamiliar with maybe the scene or any of these tracks would like. So it's stuff that the cream rises to the top, and that's just kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah. One time I was talking to Mark Curto, you know, DJ over at CYY, about this, and he told me he can tell within the first 10 seconds of a song whether he likes it or not, or whether it's good or not. Do you have that same sort of reaction? Like, you hit play and you know kind of right away, this is a song I would consider, or this song is dead to me?
I do, but there's lots of instances where there's a song I didn't like, and then later on it became a favorite of mine. So I think it can kind of go both ways. But yes, I kind of feel like there are certain things I listen for in terms of quality of recording and music, and just whether it's interesting or not.
You know, I mean, that's something I try not to do that as much as possible. When I review discs, I try to listen to them at least 5 times before I write my review. I mean, one of the things I think good music does is sort of builds on you. Like the second and third time you listen to it, you're like, wow, this is sort of better than I thought it was. And the songs that I respond to right away, sometimes it's because that's sort of what they're, you know, they're poppy or whatever, and they're built for you to respond right away, and then after 5 songs you sort of hate it. I mean, do you find that happening? Do you find yourself getting sick of songs that you picked and they're on your discs, or do they all sort of last pretty well for you?
Well, I agree that sometimes you hear a song and you like it right away and you want to hear it over and over, and then the next day you're sick of it. So there's some stuff that just doesn't last, and I think that's kind of the essence of pop music in a way. So I don't know. There's all, you know, it goes in a lot of different ways. So there's stuff that you like right away. There are songs that you really have to listen to. You know, one of my favorite groups in the '90s was Wilco, and I used to listen to their records, and I never liked them when I first heard them. But you know, 6 months later, it would be one of my favorite records of that year. So it kind of works different ways. I think good music, there are layers you have to get through.
Right. What about all the sort of trappings of a band? You know, people, the whole, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, don't judge a band by its CD. I actually don't agree with that. I think if a band has like a really crappy cover on their CD, or their band photo is horrible, that makes me like them less. It makes me question, you know, talking about taste, it makes me question their taste. It's like, you had a decision about an image to represent your music, and you chose that, and it looks ugly and crappy. How does that affect the way that you perceive a band?
I guess what you said is true. It does. I don't think you can't really prevent that. But if possible, I don't even look at the cover. I don't look at the band photo. I just want to hear the music, because they could be great musicians and terrible at. I'm sure I could come up with an example of where that's, the music is great and the packaging is terrible. That does happen occasionally. So.
Right. Well, I mean, you also, in your work with Cricket Cove, you also help bands with that. I've noticed the CDs that are coming out of Cricket Cove that you sort of helped along the way. They all have a sort of similar quality to them. It's a quality control is sort of one of the things that you offer. Do you also consult with them on maybe you don't want to use that image, or what's your role there?
Well, I'm a big believer in good design. I think good design throughout whatever aspect of the world you're in is good. It's good for business. It's good for your image. I'm not a graphic designer, but I usually counsel people, have somebody who knows design to do this. So, that's part of it. Yeah.
I think good design is hugely important. I mean, the way you design your album, but also, sort of the design of your music. I get really wrapped up in album-wise, the order of the songs, or why is these two songs together, or there's too many songs, or what's sort of your opinion on is there like kind of an ideal album format, or is there a way that you think bands showcase themselves the best way right now?
Well, I mean, I have my opinion about what that is, but not necessarily. I think, for instance, I think 45 minutes is the ideal full-length album, but there's all kinds of exceptions.
I've asked that question to so many people. Almost everybody answers 45 minutes.
45 minutes. I mean, it's if you look throughout the history of pop music, that's probably where the standard got met. So, it really varies. I'm a big believer in editing too. So I think if you've got too many songs, it's best to edit it down. And if it ends up being 30 minutes, it ends up being 30 minutes. I don't really think that matters. I think just having the best of your work out there is the important thing.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think too. I think one of the sort of places where bands do themselves a disservice is when they don't use an outside voice to sort of help them separate their own taste from the taste of the world at large. And I think that's one of the things in the local music scene that doesn't happen enough, because usually the bands are either recording themselves, or they're recording, they become friendly with the recording engineer, and hopefully they've got someone like Jim Begley here at the studio to give them good advice. Thanks to the studio for hosting us here. But a lot of times they don't have somebody to give them good advice. Is that a role that you find yourself playing? I mean, you talk to a lot of bands. Do they ask you for advice on their albums before they put them out?
There's a few bands that I work with in kind of a management way where that's true, but I generally try to stay out of that. I think if you're a creative person, you should have people around you who can
Tell you
evaluate your work,
yeah.
Be honest with you about. I think that's important. It's probably important for any walk of life, but especially for creative people. And so again, that's a good idea to have somebody who can do that. And if you have people you think have good taste, whatever that is. That's even more important, I think.
Yeah. I mean, so kind of finally to wrap this up, I think there's been a sort of decrying of popular culture's taste, whatever it is, the mass, why it is that Call Me Maybe is popular, and my daughter knows all the words, and she doesn't know all the words to the new Wilco song. You participate in that popular culture. I mean, you are broadcasting on the radio, you're releasing albums, and they are, they fit in there somewhere. How do you sort of look at, what popular culture likes, and do you consider that as you're putting out a release, or you don't consider it, or, what factor does that play?
I mean, you start talking about taste, and, I don't think that I have good taste. I know what I like, though. When I look at pop culture, my rule of thumb is that 90% of it is if you divide it in between good and not good, good is 10% and not good is 90%. So I kind of approach everything from that. I'm happy to be surprised that that's not the case, but I think if you look at movies, and I mean that's just my experience.
Right.
So I just don't like very many things.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously a big difference between what is sort of tasteful and what is marketable and successful and money making. I mean, you play to some sort of masses. So So I guess final question, do you have in your mind a difference between what you like and what is good?
I've never really considered that. I mean, I think what I like is good, but I wouldn't presume to tell anybody that. I think everybody, if you ask somebody, do you have good taste in music, they would say yes. I mean, people like what they like, and whether it's Call Me Maybe or whatever, just because a critic likes it doesn't necessarily mean it's better. So I don't know. That's a tough question.
It is a tough question. Hopefully, it's a question that you out there in YouTube land or wherever you're watching this will consider. Charlie, thank you so much for being here today.
Sorry, I didn't wear a tie, but
that's quite all right. I'm overdressed.
Didn't know the dress code here.
Exactly. Thanks again to the studio for playing host and Jim Begley for being our sound engineer. And thank you guys all for watching. We'll see you next month.